PBKC is your entertainment destination for poker, table games, OTB, Paddock live events, and exceptional eats. The Paddock restaurant is perfect for meetings, corporate functions, parties, fundraising, and more. Call 561-683-2222 extension 199 and book your next event today. Feast in Football is back in the Paddock. Get ready for touchdowns and tasty bites every football Sunday during the regular season. Enjoy a $25 all-you-can-eat buffet plus one draft beer, or get it free when you place a $25 or more live bet on the Hard Rock Bet app at PBKC. Featuring 140 HD TVs, 3 giant screens, and a full bar. Bring your crew, place your bets, and pile your plate high. This is how Sundays were meant to be.
It's Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. We're in beautiful South Florida here at the Palm Beach Kennel Club for PBKC Picks. My name is Mike Jameson. To my right, the president of PBKC, Mr. Pat Rooney.
How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well. How are you doing
I'm
today?
trying to get in the festive spirit here a little bit.
You do look Christmas.
Prior to before Christmas. We got our Christmas lunch coming up, so
okay.
I'm breaking out the red tie.
Okay, right behind Pat. He obviously didn't understand that we were dressing up today.
Just winners.
Is Earnest?
Look, we're 2-11, 2-12. We're hell in the record is now, so whatever.
Okay.
So
Is that how it is? The teams
sure.
that are bad?
And it's fitting that
okay.
the two worst teams right now in football are our two teams. Literally,
very
1 and 2.
fitting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
How you doing, loser?
Sitting next to Earnest, the loser is
Man,
Noah.
I can't explain how good it is to be here today. Like, after a little drought for the Eagles, we're, I like to say, back on track.
Raiders?
Back
Well,
on
I
track.
mean,
the
you
Raiders,
beat a
but yes.
JV team,
Back
so
on track.
it's not that much.
Win's a
but-
win.
Oh, let's go right into the NFL action.
Let's do that.
Noah and Pat aren't going to be here for the full show today, so we're going to get right into the action. The Steelers won on Monday night, a cold game in Pittsburgh. The Dolphins are now eliminated. What do we see? Did you like the way the Steelers looked in this game? And then I got a question after you answer that.
Well, I got a couple hot takes for the Steelers. I'm sure you guys are going to hear them. But for this game in particular, this didn't really surprise me. The only thing that sort of surprised me was the Dolphins were in this game. It was 0-0 into the second quarter, and then the Dolphins actually scored first, and they got away from running the ball, which was their strength this whole 4 or 5 game winning streak. Steelers' weakness is their rush defense, and they decided to have Tua throw some kind of a horrendous out pattern on, I think it was on second down when they were driving again, and it got intercepted, and that was kind of like it for them. They went into a hole at that point, and the Steelers scored on 3 straight possessions. First time this year, by the way, that they scored touchdowns on 3 straight possessions. But I just didn't understand that game planning from Mike McDaniel and the offense there. The Dolphins were there. They had a chance to at least do something in that first half and maybe get some momentum. But I will say this, though, Tua's got to go. He is awful. They're not going to win with him. He makes horrible decisions. He takes sacks where he shouldn't take sacks. Should throw the ball away. His arm strength doesn't even look good. And I know it was 10 degrees there and all that kind of stuff, but he's either hurt or he's just not that good, and the Dolphins aren't going to win with him. So that's the first time I've really been able to see him a lot this year, and I didn't like the decision making. I didn't like a lot of what was going on with him, and it's a shame. He's probably a good person and all that kind of stuff, but you're not winning with him. So
Yeah.
It's
that's my take on it.
definitely the latter there, Pat. But, like, my takeaway from this game is this. Stats can be deceiving. Like, look at Tua's numbers, 22-28, 250-something yards. Oh, it's not a bad game. No. If you watch
Well, they
the
were
game,
garbage time.
Right, exactly. If you watch the game, he just did not look comfortable in there. He just made some bad throws. It was not a good game at all. And Tua has to go. I agree. Here's the problem. If they come
just signed him.
they just signed him one, and if they come this year, in offseason rather, the cap hit is about $70 million, $60 million. And you're entering a draft class that's not a lot of quarterbacks in there, so you're stuck with him for another year probably, unfortunately, with Miami. So, but like I said, I think him and McDaniel are tied to the hip, I guess, at this point now. There's a possibility that because they played so well last month now that they're both back next year anyway, which in my opinion, and I know Noah agrees with this too also, that's a bad thing.
Right. The writing was on the wall, in my opinion. If you look back at when Tua signed that contract, he literally stood in front of the fans at one of the preseason camps and he yells to them, and he smiles, and he says, "Show me the money." And it was just such a tacky, cheesy move I've ever seen anybody do with the fans. That is absolutely aged worse than anything I've ever seen in sports history, because it is the worst money ever spent. Now, you could find the Eagles found their way outside. Somehow they got out from under Carson Wentz. They signed him for a monstrous contract, traded him away, and then moved on. I don't know if the Dolphins are capable of pulling that off where Tua is right now. I don't know if a lot of people see the upside. But these retreads, in a way it goes, somebody's going to do something. Miami's going to be in the hole for many years with what they've done with Tua. And, again, they missed their turn. New England had their turn. This was supposed to be Miami to step in. They didn't, and now they're toast again.
Yeah, Mike McDaniels finally came out and said that Tua is definitely not. It's not a guarantee that Tua is going to be starting at quarterback.
I start quitting yours. See what you have there. Might as well.
Exactly. I mean, they're out of the playoffs now. Obviously, you guys answered the questions I had about Mike McDaniel and Tua. Now let's move on to Patrick Mahomes. Tore his ACL. He has had surgery on his ACL and his LCL, and the Chiefs, obviously, playoff hopes have ended. What is going to go on with the Chiefs now, Pat?
Well, they need a retool. Mahomes is probably going to effectively be out next year as well. He might try to come back, but these are usually 2-year injuries, before you're really fully back. The good news is he's still young. So, again, we've talked about sort of how Brady had like that brief or that period of 10-year period where they didn't win a Super Bowl in his career. That I'm not going to say it's going to be 10 years, but there might be a 3 or 4 year period here now where the Chiefs need to retool. Chris Jones is getting old. Travis Kelce's getting old. They got to get that offensive line back squared and get some more playmakers for Mahomes anyway. So this next year could be an odd year for Kansas City. I'm not going to say they're going to tank or anything like that, but they're not going to be the same team. And I don't think Mahomes should come back, even if he wants to, until that thing is fully here. You don't need to try to do something next year to protect your superstar quarterback, who's probably going to be good for at least another 6 or 7 years. So if I was the Chiefs ownership, I would not rush him back or anything. They're going to need to fill in some spots anyway, and maybe next year's the year to do it. I know Chiefs fans probably don't want to hear that, but they might have to take sort of an average year next year and just try and build some things and then worry about Mahomes the year after that.
Retool was probably the game plan anyway before they got eliminated. Then he got hurt. Now we're into a rebuild because I think this is an excuse now for them to say, you know what, before going over the cap, math equation, earliest gets back, if he does come back next year, earliest probably mid-October, late October, week 9, whatever. That's already half the season gone. So at this point, the Chiefs now have an excuse now to say, you know what, this is rebuild, this is got things from scratch. Look at Chris Jones. You get rid of him. You get some cap relief there. Travis Kelce's future. What is he going to do? Is he going to retire? Is he going to whatever? And then Andy Reid. Does Andy Reid want to stick around for all this? See, the difference between this Chiefs dynasty versus the Patriots one is that even those 10 years the Pats didn't win the Super Bowls, they got the 2 Super Bowls anyway. And they were still in the conversation every year. You know what I mean? So this thing is a little bit different in a sense. You have more continuity back with New England with what they're doing. But the Chiefs are right now, it's going to be a 2-year process here. And I think they need to rebuild, not retool.
Yeah, has anybody here ever, I once stepped off a ladder and strained my whatever one's on the inside, MCL or whatever, and that thing hurt me for 18 months or something when I was you could touch it and be sore to the inside. So that's tough. And you see quarterbacks bounce back from that. Tom Brady, obviously, he bounced back from one. Probably very similar in an age group when he had his.
His was week
that
1.
Was game 1.
Week 1.
Right. So yeah, he's gonna be at least, I'm thinking, into the middle of next season. He had the surgery the next morning, which was wild. Everybody said that was a quick turnaround. But yeah, the Chiefs. Does Andy Reid look to continue? Travis Kelce's gonna retire. If Patty Mahomes isn't playing, Travis is not going to play. And then Andy Reid has to decide what he wants to do. And again, like we said, retool this thing, rebuild this thing. I don't know what their draft capital or what what they have in the pipe as far as to be able to start building that team back, but they need to start looking at maybe a 2-year rebuild.
Okay, also in injury news, Micah Parsons tore his ACL in the loss to the Broncos. What does this mean for the Packers going to the postseason?
I think this one's devastating. I mean, the Chiefs weren't doing anything this year anyway. I don't want to make light of that, but this team has genuine Super Bowl aspirations, and they've already lost a tremendous amount. They're like Detroit from last year. They've lost a bunch of guys on offense and defense, and this one is the one guy I really think, except for Jordan Love, that on the whole team that they couldn't afford to lose. And I'm not going to say that they can't do anything. They're 9-3-1 or whatever they are. They're right there still. But this one's bad. I don't know how your defense can coalesce around whoever's going to take this guy's place. Nobody really can, and then try to manufacture some kind of an effort to be able to stop playoff offenses in the NFC. So I hate saying never, but this one really hurts Green Bay. I don't think they recover from it. I really don't.
I agree with you. This is bad breaking for them. You're not beating Philly. You're not beating the Rams. You're probably not beating Seattle. You need Parsons there to change things up in that defense. Look, if there's any time that Jordan Love need to step up and be the guy that they paid him to be, this is the time to do it. And even then, might not be enough. So this is a devastating injury for the Packers, honestly.
Yeah, and not all ACL injuries are the same. This is different than Patrick's. They're both torn. I get it. But for Micah, what he needs that part of his body to do, he's going to put a lot more pressure on, I think, moving forward. And it may impact. You've seen these things for guys in those positions where they rely on explosiveness specifically. It could have a long-term impact.
Yeah, future father now, Josh Allen. Obviously, him and Haley Steinfeld. I know in your house it was probably a lot of tears shed. She's pregnant. Congratulations to them. And Josh Allen led the Bills to a comeback win over the Pats in two of the better teams in the AFC. How do we feel about that game?
Well, I mean, Josh Allen has literally taken this team on his back. The Bills are not man for man as good as they were last year and probably not as good as they were 2 years ago. But because Josh Allen has accelerated his abilities, that they're actually probably a better team because of one guy. His metrics, everything, stats are better than last year when he won the MVP. He's winning it again this year. I know we talked about Baker Mayfield and maybe Matthew Stafford and guys, but Josh Allen is winning it again this year, I think easily. And if you want to go even further as a team, not to put much pressure on the Bills, but this is it. You don't have Patrick Mahomes. You don't have Joe Burrow. You're probably not going to have Lamar Jackson. There is nobody in the AFC that is as equipped as the Bills are to at least get to the Super Bowl this year. If they don't, I said this last year, where do they go from here? But legitimately, where do you go from here if you don't make the Super Bowl? There's nobody in that AFC field that's a world beater, or at least not right now. We don't know half these quarterbacks and coaches are all new, and I just think the heat is really on the Bills at this juncture. Now, they're going to have to probably go on the road to do this, but I don't think that matters. Josh Allen's one of those guys. He's been around long enough, and they win a lot of crucial road games. They've done it this year already. This is a lot of heat on the Bills. They've got to do it this year.
There's certainly a lot of heat on Sean McDermott. They've got to at least get to the Super Bowl or bust. Because, again, we said this for weeks. Like, we're in a scenario now where the two favorites entering the year are likely not going to be in the playoffs. One's gone already. That's the Chiefs. And now the Ravens are on the clock now. So there's no excuse here. This is going to be the most wide-open AFC we have seen in generations. And there's no excuse. Josh Allen, by virtue of the teams right now, to be in the playoffs, they are the most experienced, really, of the bunch that have gone to the playoffs in the last 5 years. So there's no excuses here. There's no excuse whatsoever. Get to the Super Bowl or Sean McDermott's done.
Yeah, in the playoffs, I always look to the quarterback's ability to win games. And so as we get later in the AFC, who do we have left? You have Josh Allen. Obviously, Herbert hasn't proven it in the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers has proven it in the playoffs. I think that you could be on a collision course for Pittsburgh and Buffalo at some point. I do believe that those are the two teams that know how to win these games just based on their quarterback. And, yeah, Josh is playing lights out, and it's never been a question. That guy, he could carry any team, and he's doing it now for sure. MVP, I don't even know what the odds are now, but it's too late to bet on that because you're not going to make any money.
I think he's one of only 4 players since 1999 that have scored or been involved in 6 touchdowns in one game, and he did that last game. So
he's incredible.
Wow. His comeback is unbelievable. You talk about the guys that you've seen Tom Brady do that thing, but Josh Allen and his comeback prowess is unbelievable.
Josh Allen's plus 425 right now.
Wow.
Behind Stafford and Drake May.
Yeah. Let's make a bet on him right now.
Make the bet.
Let's make a bet.
Yeah.
PBKC Picks bet. Now moving on to other teams that we talk way too much about on the show.
I agree with that.
The Philadelphia Eagles bounced back with a 31-0 win over what might just be the worst team in the NFL, the Las Vegas Raiders. How did we feel about that win?
I watched a little bit of Tennessee and San Fran. Vegas is bad. I don't understand it either. They opened the season with a win in New England. You thought Geno Smith and Pete Carroll had something going, but my God, they just tanked. They only had like 50 yards of offense or something ridiculously low. That's really actually hard to do to have that few. You almost have to just lay down and not try to do anything. Vegas, I think, without breaking any boundaries here, saying they're the worst team I've seen in a long time. They just don't seem to be playing with any kind of energy or anything. Without that said, Philly needed this. They needed the Little Sisters of the Poor, and they got it. So, maybe this starts rectifying some stuff with them and gets them focused now for this stretch run to get into the playoffs and repeat. So they absolutely needed this game, and like I said, for them, Vegas didn't even show up. So good for the Eagles. And I don't know where you go with Vegas. You can get rid of literally the whole team and start everything over again, and it can't be any worse than this.
I mean, cool. They're supposed to do this. Like, we call this.
Shut out?
Absolutely. That's on the table. I said, what did I say last week in the show? Like, it's not enough to beat the Raiders.
Okay.
Style points better.
Right.
You got to see.
How many points you give them for style?
I said at least 20. I said 20 plus.
Right.
So they did what they had to do. And the Eagles are still a good team. I'm not knocking that. But we're going to see in the next couple weeks. They play the Bills in 2 weeks, and that's a possible Super Bowl preview. Who knows? But, yeah, they did what they were supposed to do, and Raiders are just terrible. That bad.
Yeah, so the Eagles have everything in front of them now. They need one of 6 things to happen. They either need to win one of their next 3 or Dallas lose one of their next 3. So there's things setting up where Philly actually might lock in their playoff position after this week, which would be wild. They might be able to move up one spot, maybe, but it doesn't look like they'll get that home field throughout. So, yeah, you talk about get-right game and that, that the Raiders aren't a very good football team. They're not. But you still have to make those throws. You still have to put those on the button. But it did a lot for chemistry. If you watch the NFL show on HBO where they show these things, Hurts had a thing with Sirianni after he threw a dot down the middle of the seam, and Sirianni comes up and takes credit for the play design, and Hurts comes up and says, well, I made the throw down the seam, but they were bumping chests and they were laughing, and it changed the dynamic of what everybody believes this team to be, and I think we're going to get on pace with some team chemistry, and nobody wants to play the Eagles in the playoffs. You could just say that.
You really concerned with Dallas, though? Come on. No, not at all.
Come on,
they're done.
Stating facts, yeah.
So
I will say this, though. I think the Eagles need to keep playing, though. I'd be one of those. They need to get some things right here, and if they relax for these last 2 games or whatever, I actually think that might hurt them. Not, most Super Bowl, contending teams, you want that extra couple weeks to, if you can, just play some different guys and stuff. But I think the Eagles actually need to keep playing hard and go in the playoffs with a little bit more of an edge.
Totally agree with you on that.
So Pat called this about 3 weeks ago. Lions' playoff hopes are in jeopardy after a loss to the Rams. Do we think that the Lions can still make the playoffs, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, they can still make the playoffs. They got a tough game. They got to play Pittsburgh this week. Steelers have played well in Detroit and against Detroit. I think they're 5-0-1 since that coin flip game. Many years ago on Thanksgiving. And Aaron Rodgers plays good against Detroit and in Detroit. So this one shocked me at all. The Steelers went into Detroit and won. This isn't like going into Chicago where the Steelers have no hope. They play well in Detroit. So Detroit loses that game. I think they're probably going to be cooked. Although the weird thing with Detroit is they've been alternating wins and losses for like the last 9 weeks. So they lost last week, so this would be, according to, the pattern that they would win this week. So I'm not going to completely write them off, but I just think last year took so much out of them and all the defensive injuries and everything. And they started off well this year, but it's just tough to keep that focus, that high level of focus, and they're in a tough division. So I'd put it at less than 50-50 right now that they make the playoffs.
Certainly narrow, but their schedule, I mean, you have again the Steelers this week at home, then you have the Vikings on the road, and then the Bears on the road as well, too. Packers are now in trouble with Micah being out. The Bears, I still don't trust them. So there's still a path, but it's a very narrow path. I would probably bet no based on the optics, but it's a Detroit is going to be one of those teams disappointing. I knew there'd be regression to me this year. I didn't think it'd be this bad. And again, you played a Rams team that right now might be the best team in football altogether. So,
yeah, I think that the way they're playing right now has a lot to do with Dan Campbell took over the offensive play calling, and I don't think it's great right now. I don't. I'm seeing some of the calls on some of these down and distance things that just don't make sense, where you're trying to sneak in a run on 2nd and 12 when you're trying to surprise somebody, and he's not surprising anybody. All the gimmicks on 4th down and all the gimmick plays and all that stuff, once that gets on tape, you start to run out of things, and I think they have. I think they lost a lot of that surprise stuff that they had last year because they used it all up. And I think it's affecting him now.
How about our guy, Old Man Rivers, came in, threw a touchdown, but they still fell to Seattle 18-16. He came out of the game pretty much unscathed. How do we feel about Phillip Rivers' performance?
Well, I mean, I think it was unbelievable, if you want to know the truth. Seattle's a good team, and they're playing in Seattle. Now, maybe they probably took the Colts a little lightly. I would imagine they're like, hey, we got a 44-year-old guy that's literally come off the couch. We're just going to show up. So I'd factor some of that into it. But Rivers didn't play bad. Like his stats aren't great, but he threw a touchdown. His arm strength has never been some part of his repertoire. He's a field guy, and he finds spaces, and that's what he did sort of there. He didn't throw the ball downfield that much, but I mean, as somebody that's 61 and watching a guy that has come off the couch to play, I was actually inspired watching him out there. And if you listen to his comments afterwards, I mean, it was great. He was trying to talk to the kids of the school that I don't know if he's a high school coach or whatever, but it was actually really, if you listen to his post game, it's actually something that's worth listening to because, I mean, I don't know. He'll probably get rung up in this next game and be done, but at least for one game, he was out there slinging it around again.
It was very inspiring, too. As someone's only a year older than he is, man, that's really cool to see that. And he gave him a lead with less than a minute to go in the game, so he did his job. It wasn't the greatest game, obviously. I think it was only 3 throws over 10 yards in the entire game. So, but he did his job. He had the only touch on the game also on top of that too. So, but like I said, it's a cute story, but it's not going to hold up. At some point the wheel will fall off. Seattle probably, I guess, played patsy a little bit this week, but great story though overall.
Yeah, and I can't relate to it because at 51, I still can't throw a football just the same as I couldn't when I was 18. But yeah, the arm strength. I did see some of the throws, but he wasn't. There were no lasers, and he wasn't launching it downfield. But yeah, he was serviceable. But it is. This starts to tell you how bad the situation is for quarterbacks in the NFL. And with the next draft class coming out, I don't know if it's going to get any better.
Nope.
But that's where you really, if you have that franchise guy, you have a chance. Phillip Rivers isn't that guy right now, but he's serviceable.
It's a crappy class.
So Pat, I know you guys have to leave in a couple of minutes. I know you wanted to touch on the college football playoffs. We'll do that, and then we'll get into quick picks before you guys got to go. How are we feeling about this college football playoffs?
Well, I mean, if I had time last week when I was had more steam with this, I just think it's ridiculous. This isn't the college basketball playoffs where you have 100 teams and you can put the little sisters of the poor in there and have fun and be like, oh, they're going to go play, Akeem Olajuwon in Houston, and let's see what they can do. Oh, it's 100-3. So we're a little shocked there by, the 16 team, not really being able to give the number 1 seed a game. That's not what this should be. This should be the 12 best teams. It's not that hard. BYU, Vanderbilt, or Notre Dame should be in there, not JMU and not Tulane. Nothing against those schools. They've done great. They had great years and all that. But they are not going to be able to compete at this level versus Texas or Oklahoma or whoever they got to play. Ole Miss. I mean, this is going to be a slaughter, in my opinion, with these two teams. Mm-hmm. And it's a waste. It's a waste of time. Why is the NCAA doing this? I do not understand it at all. We finally got away from the 4 team because we wanted to include some more teams. Great. Now you've gimmicked it up to where, again, it's still not the best teams. That's always been the objective, I thought, was to get the best 12 teams or 16 teams or whatever it is. And because we couldn't quite figure it out with 4, we went to 12. Again, smart. At that point, it's harder to argue if you're 13, versus 5. to get in. But now they've screwed this up, and now they got some agreement now with Notre Dame and somebody else for next year that if they go undefeated or whatever, then they get in automatically.
How does that work, though?
It's so stupid. I just don't understand the people. It's this inclusive BS that has permeated our society where we have to give everybody a trophy.
Yeah.
We have to let the
No
MAC
trophies.
conference get a spot. Why? Who cares? Put Notre Dame and BYU or Vanderbilt in there. That's who I want to see play. Not again, nothing against JMU or Tulane from that perspective, but they are not worthy of playing in this thing.
All the 12-team thing did, and I'm a fan of it for the record, is it shifted the problem down from the top to the bottom. So you have the same issues just on the bottom of the bracket.
That's
now.
exactly right.
So I mean, there's no way to fix this unless you just not allow other conferences to even be involved, because those conferences don't play the schedules that the Group of Five does. So I mean, there's really no way to fix this. You have 130-something schools in Division I, and you got to fit 12 in there. It's hard to really get that. If you put the 12 best teams in college football, I can argue the top 6 or 7 teams in the SEC should be in there, even with 3 or 4 losses. But we can't do that. So
Right, that was my thought exactly. Like if you really took, like, there's some teams, like, I don't know, even as bad as Florida's playing, they could beat some of those teams that got in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
And it surprises you. So yeah, you talk about quality wins and strength of schedule and all this other stuff. And but if you win a conference that's not very good, you automatically get in. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. But yeah, like Pat said, we're going to see some of those 47-3 games, and it's not entertaining. But there's no Cinderella stories in football. And a coach once told me it. And again, my coach mentor Dan Laughlin, I showed him tape. We were going to play somebody, and I showed him the tape, and he shows up the next day. I said, "All right, Dan, how do we beat him?" He said, "You don't." He said, "Some games you just lose," and that's the situation we're in right now. It's just you just don't have the firepower to do it, and that's what we're doing. So yeah, the coach should probably go in the locker room, tell him what Dan said, and like, yeah, we're just going to lose this thing, but let's go have fun.
would you consider Indiana a Cinderella story still, despite the fact that number one?
That's that team that he shouldn't have won the Heisman, but yeah.
Yeah, I actually agree with that.
Yeah.
I actually agree with that.
We're actually going to talk about Ernest and I, a college football playoff bracket that we have later in the show. But let's move on to our favorite portion of the show, and that is called Quick Picks, where we go through each and every game. Let's start off with the Thursday game. Rams at Seattle. Rams go in favored by 1.
Ooh, what a game. What a game. I'm going to take the Rams.